friends, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Light from Mars. As you may or may not know, it is still spooky season, so of course I have another spooky video for you guys today. So today I am going to be playing Never Have I Ever Paranormal Edition. Yes, so I'm sure that we've all played that game, right? Never have I ever, you put down the finger if you've done something. We're going to be doing it a little bit different today, and of course it's going to be paranormal themed, right? So all of these things are going to be paranormal things. So let's see if I have or have not experienced or witnessed these things. So before we get into this super fun game, I just want to say real quick that if you are not already subscribed to my channel, please do hit that subscribe button. I upload new videos every single day, Monday through Friday, so there's plenty of new content all the time and plenty to binge that's already come out, so who doesn't love that? Hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications so that you can get notifications every time I do upload. That being said, let's just get right into this game. So I did get these prompts from two different websites, so I will link those down below. And yeah, let's just get started. So I have my little paper here, so I'm going to be holding it up for you guys so you can see if I have or have not done these things or witnessed or experienced these things. So I of course have my I have side, and then I have not, all right? So if I have, I'm going to explain to you guys the story or what happened or what the experience was. And if I have not, obviously I don't have a story. So yeah, let's just get right into these prompts. So the first one is, never have I ever seen a ghost and thought it was a real person. So I'm gonna say that I have. Technically, I've never really seen an apparition of a full ghost. You know, I've never seen just like a straight up human and thought that, oh, that's just this person. But I have seen shadows and like things moving out of the corner of my eye and things like that, especially when I was little, that I definitely have thought were people before. This has actually happened to me, now that I think about it, quite a lot. Especially when I was a little kid. Like I said, there was just certain areas of my house where I would swear that I would always see someone walking by and I would always think it was my parents or something, and then it never was. So technically I have, I guess, but yeah, I guess that one's kind of like in between. The next one is, never have I ever woken up in the middle of the night and seen something in my room. So I'm gonna go with I have not. I really don't have anything that sticks out in my mind. I don't know, I've never woken up and seen something like that. I have had like sleep paralysis when I was a little kid. I one time had this experience where, oh my god guys, it was so scary at the time because I was like 5 years old and I had sleep paralysis. Honestly, the only time I think I've ever had it in my life, by the way. It was so weird. And every night before I would go to sleep, my parents, they would give me a little sippy cup with chocolate milk. And that was kind of what would help lull me to sleep every night. And I remember that when I had this sleep paralysis experience, I had this like vision or whatever, I guess. I wouldn't say dream, whatever. That the devil walked into my room and like took a sip out of my sippy cup and then was trying to give it to me. And I know it sounds so ridiculous and I don't even know how to describe this figure. I guess it was just kind of like a black hooded figure. It wasn't even that scary. But at the time, I was so shook, guys. I was terrified and yeah, left me traumatized for a good while. So, I mean, that did happen, but I knew it was sleep paralysis, so I mean, it still technically doesn't really count, I guess. The next one is, never have I ever seen a UFO or alien. So I think you guys already know the answer to this. I have, okay. So if you haven't already seen my video all about this, about why I believe in aliens and my UFO experiences, I'll link it up here so you can watch it. I won't go into all the details just because I did kind of explain my experiences in that video. So if you're interested, go check it out. But I have indeed seen UFOs and aliens. Well, technically not aliens, but I've definitely seen UFOs. So yeah, go check out that video if you want to hear the stories. The next one is, never have I ever gone ghost hunting. So I have. Again, if you guys follow my channel, you probably know this too. Especially last year, I was kind of doing this series where I was trying to go to a couple different haunted locations, and honestly, I only got to go to like 2. Just just because I wasn't really putting as much time into my channel then, so you know how it is. But I really have at least tried to go ghost hunting before. There are still a couple more places that I honestly do definitely want to go. I just haven't really gone this year because of Miss Rona and you know, all of the things. I'm kind of trying to avoid going out in public. But I definitely do want to do more ghost hunting in the future. It honestly seems so exciting to me and really fun. And I guess I think that just because I haven't really had a negative or scary experience yet, but you know, I'm sure if I saw something crazy, I might not think it was so fun. But I technically have gone ghost hunting. I just haven't really experienced anything too crazy yet. So the next prompt is, never have I ever seen anything at 3 a.m., the witching hour. So technically, I don't really think that I've ever seen anything scary at 3 a.m., but I mean, I definitely have had weird experiences before. I remember that there was a period when I was like 12 where I would wake up every single night at like 3:30 in the morning, every single day. And it was to the point where, I mean, I'm sure I just kind of trained my body to do that, to be completely honest. But it was to the point where I would get so freaked out. I don't know, I would just wake up and I knew that it was gonna be that time. And sure enough, it always was. And I knew that like this was supposedly the witching hour or whatever, that it was supposedly the hour where everything comes out. So it always freaked me out. And I remember that I would force myself to sit there for like 20 minutes or whatever until 4 o'clock rolled around, because then I felt like it was probably safe to go back to sleep. But I just could not get myself to just, you know, lie there with my eyes closed at that time, because I was just so scared that something was going to happen, you know? And granted, I mean, again, I never really had any crazy experiences around that time specifically, so I don't know why it freaked me out so much, but it kind of did. Honestly, now I feel like I kind of think of 3 o'clock or 3 a.m. is like not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, 3 is technically a sacred number, so it doesn't really give me any bad vibes anymore. And I don't know, I guess I'm just kind of less scared of paranormal things in general now, so I don't know. I think that's also a reason that I just haven't really had any crazy experiences around that time. The next one is, never have I ever heard my name being called and no one was there. So this one is a resounding I have. All right, definitely 100% I have. I actually cannot even tell you how many times this has happened to me, shockingly. Yeah, this has happened to me a lot of times in different houses, different people calling my name, especially actually recently. This has happened to me a few times where I would hear someone calling my name and no one was even there, or even just hearing someone talking, you know, and thinking that someone was there and then no one is there. When I'm just alone in the house, or you know, at my parents' house. Obviously growing up, like there would be times where I would think that they were calling me, and I even remember there's a couple times vividly where I would think that somebody was calling me, and I swear to God that I did hear my name in my mom's exact voice or my roommate's exact voice, and you know, it just wasn't them. I would go and I would ask and I'd be like, hey, like, did you call me? Did you, you know, what did you want? And they'd just be like, oh, well, I didn't say anything, or again, no one's even home, right? So it's kind of impossible that they could have called my name. And honestly, I feel like whenever I did kind of have those kinds of experiences, I just kind of rationalized it to myself a little bit and just tried to get myself to not get scared. I think that was the biggest thing, is even though I really couldn't necessarily explain everything that was happening and I didn't know why I would hear my name being called clearly, even though no one called me, I think that I would always just kind of just be like, oh, well, okay then, I guess that happened. You know, I never was like, oh my God, that's so weird, what was that, and get all afraid. And not that I was like denying it, but ever since I was a little kid, I've always heard and I always thought the last thing that you want to do if you think that you're dealing with something paranormal, or, you know, some sort of spirit or malicious ghost or even just mischievous spirit, you know, is you do not want to be afraid, right? Because I feel like once you give it that fear, you are feeding its energy, right? I feel like it feeds off of that low vibration of fear. And so I've always just tried to avoid at all costs being afraid. I've even had instances, honestly, where I especially remember when I was a little kid, where things would go missing or certain things would just happen, and you know, certain things would move when I knew that it was impossible for them to move, or I would see my curtains just moving out of nowhere, or strange things would happen like that. And I I always just felt like the best thing to do would just be to directly kind of confront the spirit. And so as a little kid, I remember when those things would happen, I would just say out loud, like, whoever you are or whatever you are not welcome here. I only welcome good energy, and so I would appreciate it if you could leave or just stop doing this because you are not allowed to do this here. You know, kind of, I guess, just taking control of the energy and not letting it prey off of me, you know, kind of letting it know I'm not vulnerable, I'm not going to give into any fear, and I'm definitely not attracting anything like this, so this is not the right place for you, you know. And I mean, I guess it's kept me pretty safe so far. I really haven't had to deal with anything that crazy, and even the things I have dealt with, like I said, I just don't let them make me afraid. I kind of take it as a sign from the universe of just a little reminder that, you know, not all things are as they seem, and this world is a lot more complex than just what you see and what you experience in the everyday, right? And so I think it's important to always remember that, and so I take things like that as just little reminders of that from the universe. Alright, so the next one is, never have I ever been in a real haunted house. So I'm gonna say that I have not. Just because, like I said, I mean, I've been in houses where I knew stuff would happen. The most obvious example I can think of is my cousin's house. I remember when I was little, me and my cousins, we were just all super sensitive to the paranormal, and they, I think, were more sensitive than I was. And to be completely honest, I think that in part they were kind of attracting it to themselves because, again, they would kind of let it overcome them with fear. And so I feel like they kind of made it worse because of that, you know, like they were focusing on it way too much, and so it just got progressively worse. But in their house, they would claim to see some crazy things. They would see like entities coming out of the corner of the wall and black figures and, like, you know, just stuff that's really out of horror movies, honestly. And I mean, I would go to their house all the time. I would spend the night all the time, and I definitely did see some UFOs there, which is obviously a different conversation. But I mean, honestly, I never saw any ghosts or demons or entities or anything there. So, I mean, was the house haunted? I don't know, you know? I mean, I kind of feel like sometimes it's about the energy of the people and not necessarily the house. But I also do know that some houses legitimately just carry residual energy. So as far as that's concerned, I mean, I've really never been in a house that's like notoriously haunted. I guess I've just been in houses where, you know, hauntings have happened, if that makes any sense. Okay, moving on. The next one is, never have I ever seen a shadow figure. This one I'm gonna say 100% I have, alright? So other than, like I said, seeing kind of shadows and figures all the time when I was little at my house, because that definitely did happen, I swear to you, I would even think that my mom would walk by my room and like she didn't. You know, sometimes I would even hear footsteps. I mean, I wouldn't say that it was anything too major. Again, it was always very fast or out of the corner of my eye or things that were not too obvious, you know? But that being said, I do have one experience which to this day is probably one of the craziest quote paranormal experiences that I've ever had in my life, and it was completely random, and it was actually just a couple of years ago. So at the time I was living in New York. I was about 20 years old. I had been living in New York for about a year and a half, and I came home to my apartment after work one day. So I went to my room and I was just kind of hanging out. I remember I had just sat down and I was just kind of like chilling on my bed because I had a long day at work and I was just kind of tired, you know, and I literally just walked into my room. Take in mind that up to this date, I had not had any strange experiences in this apartment, okay? And I had already been living there for months and months and months, and my roommates had also not had any strange experiences, so this was completely random. So I'm sitting there and I'm pretty sure that I was like on my phone for a second, so I was just kind of scrolling, and I put my phone down for a second and I just kind of laid there, just kind of staring out, you know, into my room. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, guys, okay, this black shadow, and honestly that's the best way I can even describe it, it was just literally just like a mass of black that was just kind of see-through, you know, just appeared. And it was clear as day. There's no way. I was not imagining that. It was not out of the corner of my eye. I was looking directly at it, you know? And this black shadow, whatever, just appears kind of right in front of me. And then it comes towards me literally right towards my face, guys, to the point where I actually like moved back. I literally ducked back because I was like, oh my God, because it was just so fast and I saw it coming at me. And so my first instinct was just to move out of the way, obviously, you know? So I moved out of the way and it just kind of swooped up and that was it. It was completely gone. And again, it didn't really have a shape. It wasn't like a person, you know? It was just like, kind of just like a big ball, like almost like black smoke, you know? Except it wasn't smoke. It looked like a shadow just traveling through the air with no shape. And there was nothing else that happened. It was the strangest thing. Afterwards, I literally just sat there for a second, just staring and half expecting to see something else, you know? I was like, oh my God, processing what just happened, kind of just thinking about, you know, what I had just experienced, and at the same time just looking all around my room trying to see if I saw anything else or if anything else was going to happen, you know, because like I said, I had never experienced something like that ever before. And so after I sat there for a second and it kind of became obvious that nothing else was going to happen, I just got up and I was just like, all right, well, that just happened. And again, like I said, I just did everything in my power to not get afraid. And in a weird way, although it was shocking and although it did kind of freak me out, not gonna lie, it wasn't really that scary. And so that made me feel like it wasn't something negative, you know, because I didn't feel like uncomfortable or I didn't feel dread or, you know, I didn't feel like a negative presence there with me. So I thought, you know, this could be anything. Honestly, I mean, immediately I started trying to explain it to myself, and so I thought, this could have been so many different things, right? Like, we had multiple dimensions. This could have been an entity from another dimension that just so happened to pass through this one, you know what I mean? This could have been a spirit, you know, maybe a spirit that I even know, you know, maybe one of my family members that's passed away or something. There's just infinite things that this could be. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's something like a ghost in my room or something like that, you know? And so, yeah, I remember going to tell my roommates and they were just like, what? Are you serious? And I feel like they were honestly more freaked out than I was, but afterwards, again, the main thing that I kind of took away from it was that that was just the universe throwing me a little punch to remind me that things are complex and that, you know, I can't get too wound up in just the system and all of the things that this world tells us are real, right? Because there is more out there. So it kind of just felt like a reminder to kind of think outside the box and I guess just not get too wound up with a typical human experience, you know? To remember that there's a lot more actually going on in the world. So yeah, that was probably one of the most insane paranormal experiences I've honestly ever had, and the only time I've seen something so visual, and I know 100%, I know I saw that, I know I experienced it, I was completely sober, there was nothing that would have made that happen, you know, other than it actually being there. And so yeah, that's the big one. I definitely have seen a shadow figure before. All right, so the next one is, never have I ever received a creepy phone call. So honestly, I'm gonna say I kind of haven't. I mean, I'm really trying to remember if I have, but I don't really think I have. I mean, obviously, I guess I've had like prank phone calls or people call me and just say nothing, you know. I do remember there was a time where I was getting a bunch of calls where I would pick up, the same person was calling all the time and no one would say anything, you know, and so that was kind of weird and I guess a little creepy, but you know, it wasn't that crazy. So I'm still gonna say I have not. Next one is, never have I ever cast a spell. So obviously I have, okay. So if you guys have seen my other videos, you probably know the way I feel about spells in general. I honestly feel like every single thing that we do is casting a spell in a way, because spells are really just kind of moving energy and putting intentions forth by using the energy that certain things carry, right? So if you're doing a certain spell and you're using certain herbs or certain crystals or certain words even, right? All you're doing is using the energy that is already associated with those items to kind of push your intention even stronger out into the world, right? So every single time we do anything, we are putting energy out there, and so we're always casting spells. You know, if you ever blew on a dandelion to make a wish, you were casting a spell. If you ever plucked daisies and said, you know, he loves me not, you were casting a spell. So yes, 100% I have cast spells. Now, that being said, I know that there's a lot of people who obviously have more formal practices of witchcraft. Personally, I don't really subscribe to anything in particular. I kind of just know the associations of certain things, and so I will do certain things, carry certain amulets or certain charms. And again, I kind of believe that everything is casting spells. And I think that we should all kind of think like that, because I think we would be more aware of the energy that we're putting out into the world and what we're attracting back to ourselves, right? So yes, 100% I have cast spells before. Next we have, never have I ever believed in a superstition. So honestly, I mean, I'm gonna say I have not. Actually, you know what? That's a lie. I have, okay? The only superstition I actually feel like I do every single time is spilling salt, okay? So you know how when you spill salt, you're supposed to throw it over your shoulder, and I always forget which shoulder, so I always do it over both of them just to make sure. I cannot tell you how many times I've done this, okay? I used to work in restaurants a lot as a server and as a bartender, and so I was always around salt shakers, you know, and so it would happen all the time that I would just accidentally drop the salt shaker, and just something in me just couldn't help it that I just had to throw that freaking salt over my shoulder, you know? Even if someone was watching me, even if, you know, my other coworkers or my managers were around, I swear I would just do it real quick, you know? Even if no one was paying attention, I would just be like, okay, I'm good, you know? And I'm sure it was fine that I was doing it over both shoulders, because I know that it is only one shoulder, but again, I always forget which one, so I usually just toss it over both just to make sure I'm covering my bases. So I was gonna say that I don't believe in any superstitions, but I cannot lie, I do that every single time, and I can't even tell you why. I don't know, something just tells me to do it, so I guess I do believe in that superstition. So I have. Next is, never have I ever had a psychic experience. I definitely have, alright? So there's been a couple of instances where I've had, I guess, more vivid experiences of psychic abilities, I guess you could say. Most notably, I've had dreams before that later happen, or I've had dreams where I'll be experiencing a moment, you know, and I'll remember the dream like for months and months, but nothing will happen, right? Like it's usually seemingly unimportant, uneventful moments. That's always what it is. And I'm telling you, I've had this experience so many times actually throughout my life where it'll just be small moments. I remember like when I was little, I would have experiences being in the Sonic drive-thru with my mom, you know, and we got a certain drink and she said an exact certain set of words or whatever. And then a couple of months would pass and I would be in that exact same situation. And I would get that sense of deja vu, you know, of like, oh my God, I've witnessed this before, this has happened before, except it wasn't just like, oh, I witnessed this before, it was, I dreamed this before, I know that I had a dream about this, I vividly remember that. And that has happened to me a couple times, honestly. Just random moments, you know, like I said, like talking to someone or maybe being on the phone or, you know, in the middle of a meal. Seemingly uneventful things. I've never had a dream of something major happening, honestly. So, I mean, that's interesting. I guess my psychic abilities are still developing, so stay tuned. But definitely I have had experiences where I've dreamt of moments before they happen. But actually another thing that I'm just remembering now is actually for a while, me and my friends were practicing mind reading and we got actually pretty good at it, otherwise known as telepathy, obviously. That's the real term for that psychic ability. And so the way that we would practice is we would try to guess the color or the number that the other person was thinking of. So we tried this a couple of different ways. Usually it would be like maybe just two different people would play and we would just try to read each other. Or one person would be the one thinking of it and everyone would try to read their mind, right? And we would like go through the circle. And we started off like that just because it seemed like the easiest way to kind of get into reading each other's minds, you know? And we actually did it for a while. And you know what's interesting is I actually remember the times that it would work the best is when we would actually sit back to each other. So like we would sit, you know, I would be sitting this way and someone would be sitting with their back against me and we would just be sitting like cross-legged on the floor. And we would be thinking again, a number from 1 to 10. or, you know, any primary color, right? So you have about 10 different options. So again, it makes it a little bit easier, you know, for someone to actually pick it up. But there was a couple of times where, I mean, we would go like 10 in a row, getting it completely right. After we were practicing for a couple of weeks, we were getting very good at it. And honestly, we kind of just dropped off after a while. We got busy with other things and we kind of just stopped doing that so much, but we were really getting good at it. And I honestly feel like if we had not stopped, we would have gotten somewhere. So have I ever experienced psychic abilities? Yes, I have. Alrighty guys, so we have 2 prompts left. Let's get into it. Alright, so second to last one is, never have I ever had a near-death experience. And I have, okay? So I will vividly remember this experience for the rest of my life, I think, because it was so crazy. So this experience actually happened to me when I was really little. And the funny thing is, I actually don't even think that my parents or anyone else even really knew that this happened to me, because I really didn't talk about it after it happened, because I mean, I don't know, I guess at the time it just seemed kind of irrelevant, and it was also just very intense, so I just didn't really know how to bring it up, you know, and I didn't want my parents to freak out, so I never really told them anything about it. But basically, I had traveled on a vacation with my family, and we had gone to the city to visit with some of my other family members. And near their city was this beach town. So we went to the beach, and I was so excited, you know. I never got to go to the beach because I don't live anywhere close to a beach. I didn't grow up living next to a beach, so I was very, very excited. But I was still a little kid. I was maybe 3 or 4 years old. I just remember I was still very, very short, and you know, I was still building sand castles and playing with toys in the sand. I definitely remember being very, very young, and I also could not swim at that point. So I remember that I went into the ocean, and I guess my parents were distracted or something was going on, and I just like walked a little bit into the ocean. But again, I was young, I was still very short, and you know, I wasn't necessarily very strong compared to the ocean. And I went out, not even that far, probably with the water about to my waist, and this wave came, and all of a sudden it completely knocked me over, and I went underwater. And I remember being underwater for what felt like forever, and I remember I was trying to get up, but like the current was just so strong that I couldn't even raise myself up. And I remember after struggling for a second, like I felt my breath start to kind of constrict, you know, and I realized, oh my God, if I don't get up, I'm going to drown. And I opened my eyes, and when I opened my eyes, I saw the top of the water, and I could see the kind of the sky for a second, but then all of a sudden, the sky just kind of started fading away, and so did the water. And it was just replaced by this super intense bright light. I felt so calm, and I didn't feel afraid anymore, and like immediately I just stopped freaking out. I didn't feel, you know, all crazy anymore. I just felt calm, and I just stopped moving completely. And I remember looking up at it and just thinking, if I wanted to right now, I could just close my eyes again and just let myself go into that light. It wasn't even a scary feeling. It wasn't even like, oh my God, I could die right now. It was just kind of like, if I let myself, I could just go back into that light right now. But after looking at it for a couple seconds, I just got this message in me. I just remember thinking, no, this is not supposed to happen. I'm not supposed to die here. I'm not going to drown here. My life is not over. You know, this was not the purpose of my life here. And I got this jolt of energy, and again, I could see the water and I could see the sky, and I was able to pull myself up out of the water after having this little moment, this little experience. I just got this jolt of energy that was able to get me out. And I remember standing up again, and all of a sudden now I'm way farther out into the water. The water is like almost up to my neck at this point. And I remember looking around, and no one had even noticed that I was even that far out. Like my parents weren't even paying attention. And I know that if I had not been able to pull myself out, I very well could have drowned, honestly, that day. And I remember just walking back to shore, and my parents just not even thinking anything of it, and just talking to them like completely normal, and they had no idea. They really had no idea that that even happened. And I just remember being like, wow, well, that just happened. And you know, I was so young that I didn't even completely process it, but it was so vivid that I will never ever forget it. So yeah, that is my near-death experience story. Alright, so finally we are on to the last prompt, and this one is, never have I ever seen another supernatural entity other than a ghost. So I'm just gonna go ahead and say that I have not. I don't think that I have, honestly. So like I said, I mean, I saw that shadow entity that one time. I have seen UFOs, but I never actually seen an alien being, so I don't really know if that counts. I've had other experiences where like I've heard scratching on the doors, or I even remember as a little kid one time where I would have this experience where I felt like I was being touched by something. I would be going to sleep and then all of a sudden I would feel like a hand on my shoulder or things like that. But again, I never really saw anything, so I can't necessarily say that it was or wasn't anything, you know? So technically, I would say that I have not. Alright guys, so those are all the prompts that I have for today. This was definitely fun, definitely interesting. You guys got to learn a little bit more about my life and my experiences. I hope that it was entertaining for you. If you'd like, definitely I will list these prompts down below. So if you want, maybe you can play this with somebody that you know. If you do, definitely tag me on Instagram at Light from Mars, or of course on YouTube at Light from Mars. I would definitely love to see you guys playing this, see what your experiences are, or just leave them in the comments. Let me know if you guys have had any experiences with any of these things. Maybe you've even experienced something similar to me. That would be really, really interesting to hear. So let me know all your thoughts and everything that you want to say in the comments below. And of course, if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a big like. That means a lot to me. It means that you do like these kinds of videos and that I should continue making more like them. So please make sure to do that. And of course, if you are not already subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button. It means so much to me. I absolutely love making videos. I love doing YouTube. So you are literally supporting my life dreams by hitting that subscribe button. So, you know, no pressure, but I mean, it would be nice if you did. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video of Paranormal Never Have I Ever. It was really, really fun to film this video. I talked about some things I've kind of never talked about before, so that's always fun. And I am sending you guys all of the love and good vibes today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!